I'm currently nearing the end of my PhD, and in my PhD, I've been looking at the relationship between race and religion. More broadly, I've been asking questions with other people, with peers, with friends, with family, with academics about social issues. What are the social issues facing South Africa today, and how do we effectively unpack these social issues? How do we critique them? And more importantly, how do we get rid of them? These are hard questions to answer, and I think we need a complex toolkit to be able to engage with these kinds of questions. One of the tools that I think is really important and sometimes underappreciated is the ability to critically engage with history. In South Africa, every social issue that we have has got some kind of complex history. Often these histories are entangled with things that we are tired of talking about. Often they're entangled with apartheid, often they are entangled with colonialism. And as someone who was born 1998, born after apartheid, on one hand, I empathize with the fatigue, especially that young people have talking about history, because we've talked about history over and over again, and we want change. At the same time, I think if we want to critically interrogate any social phenomenon that we see right now, and if we want to really effectively unpack and ultimately get rid of the social issue, you need to begin with where it starts and be able to trace how it changes over time. Because the case with many social issues, in my work I focus a lot on whiteness and the relationship it has with Christianity, you can see that these social issues change, that they start in a particular kind of form, and that as norms adjust, as life adjusts, as social life changes, as political dispensations change, the issue becomes slightly different. In the case of whiteness, you see various forms and expressions of whiteness and how whiteness is privileged within society, depending on the historical moment you look at. That does not mean that the issue is no longer whiteness, or that somehow whiteness is no longer relevant in certain dispensations. But it's important to be able to trace those moments of change. So as we look at the contemporary South African moment, as we look at the social issues that continue to confront us, as we look at the fact that our country still continues to be stratified based on race, as we look at the fact that gender-based violence and femicide have become such a huge problem facing everyday life for women and queer people in this country, as we look at generally enduring gender norms, enduring norms about sexuality, I think effective turns to history that trace how these phenomena come to be, how they have changed over time, so that we can predict in some ways how things might change in future, and so we can effectively understand what machinations are keeping these things entrenched. What tools do people use to keep these things normative? If we can understand that better, by reading our history carefully, by reading it effectively, we have a better chance of dealing with social issues today and in the future.